event followed quickly by a training event and an empowerment event. At the end of that event, sweep in all their parents and grandparents and relatives. And then at those leadership retreats and training events, hook them together with civic and business leadership in the community, and let the kids set an agenda and form their own project teams, which they own completely, and everybody backs what they, come up with. And then we can feed them action plans and any number of interests that they might have, and make them successful right out of the gate. That process then begins to develop a new mentality fairly quickly. Our national model sites get 10% or more per year decreases in all negative behaviors. The dropout rate, juvenile crime rate, goes down at least 10% per year. Now imagine what would happen if that went down 10% in Inglewood.
So the retreat, now this is the motivational.
This is the motivational piece that kicks into the leadership retreat.
So now the leadership retreats, that's really that's the meat of the presentation. What does that look like? Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, let's say you take 75 students, which is the plan here for the first one. Take 75 students, and they go off an hour away on some, YMCA camp, Christian, camp, whatever you got.
So that you don't have that camp, that would be...
No, just utilizing one of the camps that they might go to with their church. Even. Take them off-site, an hour away, and then begin to develop a powerful team with those 75 kids. We found that you have to engage at least 20% to 30% of an entire school, and once you engage them and get them in leadership training, get them working in an empowerment plan for themselves and for the community, that at 20% you reach a critical mass, and you start to change all the group dynamics once you get a total leadership core of at least 20% of the total cross-section. It has to be the total cross-section of the entire school. So it can't be an elitist group. Okay? So and 20% that changes. So we take 75 kids at a time, and then take them through corporate level management skill development.
And you have that material?
Right, we have all that planned out. In fact, the retreat is written out word for 24 hours. Any adult facilitator who goes along, you can just follow along the script and learn it after being one time. Okay, so you can do those.
So let me see if what are you selling here? Are you selling this plus the equipment plus the retreat material?
We have an entire year-long plan that will change all the group dynamics, all the cultural dynamics in a school in a year. You get to a 20% position probably at the end of 2 years. And by that time, you have all kinds of businesses that are opening up apprenticeships. They're working side by side with all the teachers to bring them the latest in their field.
Does your material also have a piece for whoever wants to do this program to approach businesses and say, this is what we're doing? And
I've raised over $100 million, so I can pass that along to all of you who want to engage, corporations. Also, the interesting piece of this is that if you engage a full 20%, of the population that exists in an area, and right now you had an announcement yesterday that there's $50 million that the mayor is going after. Already $5 million's been put up by Allstate for South Chicago and West Chicago, just for those two areas. You could do 100 schools in this area. 100, probably high schools and middle schools would be the best two places to start. Right. You could do 100 of them for $3.5 million.
And that would include the weekend retreats?
Right, everything all year long. The teacher training, there's 2 skills that every teacher in America never got when they were in training to be in teaching. One is intrinsic motivation. What happens if you look out today and they're just not interested in learning? Or they're not interested in learning at the level that you wanted to teach? What do you do about that? Every teacher's been guessing. There's been no professional training in that. So they look out and some kids are talking in the back and they go, hey, shut up.
No, get out the room.
Or get out of the room, yeah, go to the dean's office or whatever.
Dean's office.
Okay, so they just don't know how to handle those things, so all that professional training we bring in as well. Empathetic confrontation skills versus sympathetic or antagonistic confrontation, no professional training in that. And that's been holding back all the classroom management.
That's right.
And so if you don't bring that up, then they still abuse those kids for 6 hours a day.
Right.
Well, that's got to be fun.
It got worse with the college, with the new national teachers program. It got worse with Inglewood. That concept alone, it's got worse with Inglewood. So even our children who was pre-required are getting discouraged because the teachers don't know how to deal with that moment.
Because they don't know how to manage the human beings that are in there, we lose 30% of all first-year teachers in the first 18 to 20 months.
Right.
We lose 50% of all the first-year teachers in the first 3.5 years. They're gone.
Right.
They've had it. They're exhausted. Okay, between the testing that is just beating down on them, like in New Orleans, I work with the schools there. 59 out of the 70 schools in Jefferson Parish have a D or F rating. They fired half of all the teachers and the principals last year. It just shifted them to other schools. They're the same caliber. They just shifted them to other schools. Nobody's building up the capacity of those people. And so they just fail everywhere that they go.
Is it an assessment built into this?
Yes, there's everything that you would ever want. We had to attack every piece that was missing in the national puzzle for education.
So how is that packaged? I mean, is there a curriculum synopsis that we can begin to?
Yeah, there are. Now, we just need to know who's really interested in this, okay? And then we'll go from there. Right now, if you want to come on the first retreat, you ask Bishop Dukes if that's okay with him, and then you can come along. We'll train you as much as we can there. If we want to set up more model sites than what we're looking at for Harper and Robeson, if there are more schools that we need to consider, there's a team of us, Gary and John Simmons. John is already involved in a bunch of the schools, and he's gotten, with strategic learning, he's gotten huge results in the schools academically and without firing any teacher or any principal.
Jim, how long will the retreat last?
24 hours is all it lasts, and that's all it needs to last.
Yeah.
It's amazing what you can do in 24 hours if you engage kids differently.
So are they up 24 hours straight?
No, they're going to go to sleep about, well, we try to go out, lights out at 11:30, but some of these kids are so excited to just get out of town.
Yes.
They want to sit up and talk, so they sit up and talk till 1 o'clock in the morning or 1:30 and finally fall asleep, and they get up at 7 and they go back at it. Yeah.
Well, in the case of Robeson, there's already conversations going on and arguments happening. And Robeson is such a case that we must deal with, that we're looking at the feeder schools into Robeson as a total package of cultural shifts. And so
what you want to do is you want to, if you can grab a hold of the high school kids, you can have a whole army of young people going back with you to where they begin to own it. There's cross-age.
You mentioned middle school and high school stuff. You mentioned that they'd be a part of the training.
Yes, but mostly we try to start with high school if we can, because they are undermining all of the efforts on the lower grades.
Right.
They will undermine and destroy 50% at least of every gain that you have made in those young kids' lives as soon as they get into high school.
Right.
They'll warp them. And so if you don't change the high school culture, you are just wasting millions and millions of dollars and a lot of energy, which you're going to end up to be very discouraged if you don't change that high school culture. And so we took the high school culture on first. Figure out everything you need to do there, because they set the tone for all those other kids and how they dress, how they talk, their attitudes and everything.
But the middle school does kick in the same first year.
Sure, we can kick into the middle school at the end of the first year and then just go right down to the elementary level and all.
Do they start at different skill sets? Because what you notice too in working with youth, that they all have different skill sets. So let's say we bring 15 kids from Urban Prep, we bring 15 kids from Robeson, 15 from Harper. They all may have different skill sets depending on the curriculum, how it's taught at their school. So the Urban Prep kids may know how to communicate effectively.
What we try to do is, we try to do it normally on one school site. All the kids from the same school. Because we want to build them into an effective family that change the culture there together every day when they go back from that retreat.
That school. So you target the school.
Okay? So we try to target the school first. In this case, we're being asked, could you do these kids who are in the jobs program, could you bring them up a level in terms of job readiness and professional skills and all that through the retreat process? Yes, we can do that.
But it's designed for a school.
It's designed primarily for a school location.
We could also instill in them that they can become ambassadors in their school.
Correct, absolutely.
Into their school.
There's enough in a group of 75, but you send 35 or so back, they can go out and get others. For example, we just started that school in Colorado, and out of the 50 kids that they had in the retreat, 20 of them were on that food drive, and they got 20 other kids from the school to join them. So they had 40 kids, and they went out and collected 6,353 cans of food.
It's important to note, though, the 75 that the pastor is referring to, and I did a lot of work with Rosie with NRI, it's not required because of the state program. We don't have to mention have to go to school. And so it wouldn't really capture the cluster of people we were really looking at.
For all the kids in this, no, you're talking about NRI.
In this program, they're all in
He's
school.
saying the 75 for the federal program.
Right.
No, he's saying for Bishop Dukes has a different
So
program.
you mean the yes students?
Now, all the children are in school right now. Yeah. The idea is that how could we change the dynamics among kids, primarily driven by them, and how could we do it within 2 years? That was our benchmark. How can we change the dynamics to where, if you want to recapture the public confidence in education, you're going to have to get at least a 5% improvement per year in all the behaviors. That means juvenile crime has to go down at least 5%, or dropout rate has to go down 5%, drug use has to go down 5%. If you don't get at least a 5% improvement, the public will not change their perception. And so our benchmark was 10. Okay, and most of our models were getting 10 to 20. And so you take a kid like TJ Ware, who was just a total criminal as far as everybody was concerned. Total life criminal. And he turns out in 1 year to just completely change around and be one of the finest leaders they've ever had coming out of there.